People used to tell me I was lucky. They would smile at me at neighborhood gatherings, nodding toward Claire as if she were proof that I had done something right in life. We looked like the perfect couple, successful, polished, inseparable. The truth? I wanted to believe it as much as they did. Our mornings followed a careful rhythm. She'd wake before me, hair tied back neatly, already dressed for work. The smell of coffee filled the kitchen. She always poured it into my favorite mug before I even stepped out of the shower. A small kindness, a ritual. To anyone else, it was the picture of devotion. But sometimes when she set the cup down, her eyes would linger on me with a distance I couldn't measure. Cold, almost calculating, she smiled at the right times, touched my arm with practiced ease, but beneath it all, I felt something I couldn't name, a current of absence. One evening after dinner, I asked, "Are you happy, Claire?" She didn't look up from rinsing her plate. Why wouldn't I be? Her tone was casual, almost dismissive, but it stayed with me. I searched her voice for warmth, for reassurance, but found only deflection. That was Claire's gift. She gave just enough to silence the questions, never enough to kill the doubt. Our friends saw perfection. Dinner parties with laughter, vacations documented in glossy photos, and intimacy staged for the world. They didn't see the silences at night, the way she'd turn to her side of the bed before I even reached for her. They didn't hear the sighs, soft but sharp, when I tried to hold conversations about anything real. Still, I convinced myself it was stress, exhaustion, the weight of careers colliding with routine. I told myself every marriage had cracks, that we were no different. But deep down, I knew Claire was holding something back. I remember one Saturday morning vividly. Sunlight streamed through the curtains, dust floating in the air like fragments of time. She sat at the table, scrolling through her phone, smiling faintly at something on the screen. "What's that?" I asked, leaning closer. She turned the phone face down with a casual flick of her wrist. "Work emails." Her voice was steady, but I saw it. That flicker of irritation, the flash in her eyes. Something in me tightened. It was a small moment, easily dismissed, yet it stayed lodged in my mind like a splinter. I wanted to believe I was imagining it, that our marriage was untouched by the poisons that corroded others. But at night, lying awake beside her, listening to her steady breathing, I realized I didn't know the woman I had married as well as I thought. From the outside, our life looked untouchable. But inside, small fractures had already begun to spread. And soon, one tiny discovery, just a single unexplained detail, would turn those fractures into a break that could never be repaired. The splinter in my mind grew sharper the following week. I told myself to ignore it, to let the unease fade into the background like white noise. But then I noticed something that couldn't be brushed away, a withdrawal from our joint account. It wasn't much, $600 gone in a single transfer. To anyone else, it would have been trivial, forgettable. But Claire and I had always been precise with money. Every purchase was discussed, every expense logged. That was our rhythm, our unspoken agreement. I stared at the bank statement on my laptop late one night. The glow of the screen cast a pale light across the kitchen, highlighting the untouched glass of wine beside me. My chest tightened. $600 wasn't just money. It was the breach of a pattern, a disruption of trust. The next morning, I brought it up carefully, as if testing a fragile glass. "Claire," I said, holding the paper statement between my fingers, "do you know anything about this withdrawal?" She looked up from buttering toast, her expression perfectly neutral. Then she smiled, warm, easy, like sunshine breaking through a cloud. "Oh, that. I had to cover a quick expense for work. The reimbursement will come through next week." Her tone was light, almost dismissive. She reached across the table and brushed her hand against mine, as if the touch itself could erase the doubt. But I studied her face. The smile didn't reach her eyes. "Why didn't you tell me?" I pressed. She laughed softly, shaking her head. "Do I need to run every little thing by you?" "It was nothing. Don't overthink it." Her words were gentle, but her eyes lingered just a moment too long, challenging me to push further, or warning me not to. I nodded, pretending to accept her answer, though inside the unease dug deeper. It wasn't the money. It was the performance, the way she used warmth to close the conversation, the way she framed my suspicion as paranoia. That night, As we sat on the couch watching television, I caught myself stealing glances at her. She laughed at the screen, her hand resting lightly on my leg as if nothing had changed. To an outsider, it was domestic bliss. But for me, the air felt heavier, charged with invisible static. I tried to convince myself that she was telling the truth, that the reimbursement would arrive, that the lie existed only in my imagination. Yet part of me knew better. It wasn't about the $600. It was about the fact that for the first time, I caught her hiding something. And if she could lie so easily about this, what else had she already hidden? That thought stayed with me long after she had fallen asleep beside me, her breathing calm and even. I stared at the ceiling in the dark, feeling the walls close in. The seed of doubt had been planted, and seeds, once planted, don't just disappear. They grow. The more I tried to ignore the unease, the stronger it became. That single withdrawal was only the beginning. Soon, little inconsistencies began to surface. Missed explanations, small details that didn't add up. When I asked Claire about them, she had a way of turning the questions back on me. "You're working too much," she said one evening, her voice low and soothing as she poured me a glass of wine. "You're tired, stressed. That's why you're seeing problems that aren't there." She touched my arm, her smile almost maternal. For a moment, I doubted myself. Maybe she was right. Maybe I was imagining things. But deep down, I felt the ground shifting beneath me. The strange part wasn't what she said. It was how she said it. Always calm, always measured, as if she had rehearsed each word. And when I pressed too hard, she sighed, tilted her head, and looked at me the way one might look at a child who doesn't understand the rules of the world. "Don't you trust me?" She whispered once, her eyes fixed on mine. The words landed like a trap. To answer no would make me the villain. To answer yes meant swallowing my doubt. I stayed silent, and she leaned in, kissing me gently, sealing my silence with tenderness. But silence grew heavy. Our friends began to notice. At a dinner party, my friend Mark nudged me, while Claire chatted animatedly with the others. "You okay? You look..." Tense, I forced a smile. "Just tired." It was easier than explaining the truth, that I felt like I was losing my grip on reality inside my own home. Nights became the worst. I would ask small questions. Where she had been, who she had met, why her phone was always locked now. She would laugh softly, shaking her head. "You're being paranoid," she said one night as we lay in bed. "Since when did you become so suspicious?" Her tone wasn't angry. It was pitying, and that hurt more than anger ever could. I started second-guessing myself. I'd check the locks twice, then wonder if I'd imagined doing it. I'd reread messages on her phone when she left it unattended, then feel ashamed for even looking. The house itself began to feel different. The air heavy, the walls echoing with unspoken words. I found myself walking slower in the hallways, listening for sounds that weren't there, waiting for something to reveal itself. Yet every morning she greeted me with the same practiced warmth. Coffee in my mug, a kiss on the cheek, a smile that convinced everyone but me. And in those moments, I wondered if the problem wasn't her at all, if it was me unraveling under the weight of my own suspicions. But then, one night I heard it. A faint sound coming from down the hall, a door closing softly, a lock clicking into place. I sat up in bed, heart pounding. There was a room in our house I had never been inside, and Claire had just locked it. The sound of the lock that night stayed with me long after the house fell silent. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, every nerve straining. It hadn't been the casual click of a door shutting. It was deliberate, measured, a lock sliding into place, separating me from something I wasn't meant to see. The next morning, I followed the sound back to its source. The door at the end of the hallway, white paint, brass handle, perfectly ordinary. Yet when I turned it, it didn't budge. Locked. I waited until Claire returned from her shower. She caught me standing there, hand still resting on the handle. "What are you doing?" she asked, her voice steady but her eyes sharper than usual. "This door's locked," I said. "What's in here?" She dried her hair with a towel, not missing a beat. "Storage. Old boxes. I locked it because you're always tripping over things." Her tone was light, casual, dismissive. The same as when I questioned the missing money. But there was something about the way she delivered it, the precision in her explanation, that only deepened my unease. "Since when do we lock storage?" I pressed. She smiled faintly, stepping past me to place her hand on the doorframe. "Since I got tired of you asking questions about nothing." That was the end of the conversation. She turned, kissed my cheek, and walked down the hall. But the locked door lingered like a shadow in my mind. Over the next few days, I began to notice things I couldn't explain. Late at night, when Claire thought I was asleep, I'd hear her footsteps, slow, deliberate, heading toward that end of the hallway. The faint creak of the door, the whisper of it closing again. And once, only once, I caught the faintest smell when she returned. A metallic tang, sharp and unpleasant, that clung to the air for just a second before vanishing. I told myself I was imagining it. Stress, fatigue, the same excuses she fed me. But doubt doesn't disappear. It grows. One night, unable to stop myself, I pressed my ear to the door. At first silence, then something. A faint scrape like metal dragging across wood. A muffled sound I couldn't quite place. My stomach knotted as I stepped back, pulse racing. When I confronted her again, she didn't flinch. "I told you it's storage," she said, her tone softer this time, almost sympathetic. "You're letting your mind play tricks on you. Do you want me to unlock it just so you can see there's nothing inside?" The offer sounded generous, but the way she asked it, so calm, so confident, made me hesitate. Because what if she had prepared it? What if opening it now would only confirm her story and make me the paranoid husband? I forced a smile, shaking my head. "Forget it. You're right. I'm just tired." But as she walked away, I realized something terrifying. I didn't want her to open the door, because deep down, I already knew that whatever was behind it would change everything. And sometimes, it's easier to live with suspicion than to face the truth staring back at you. The locked room haunted me, but it was the neighbor who finally gave shape to my unease. It happened on a gray afternoon. I was returning from work earlier than usual when I saw Mrs. Holloway, our neighbor from 2 doors down, standing by her mailbox. She was an older woman, sharp-eyed, the kind who noticed everything. When she saw me, she hesitated, then walked over, lowering her voice as though the hedges themselves might be listening. "You're home early," she said. I nodded. "Just left work a little sooner today." Her eyes darted toward my house. "I thought you should know. Strange deliveries come when you're gone. Big boxes carried inside. Not once or twice, often." A chill ran through me. "Deliveries? Claire never mentioned—" She cut me off, leaning closer. "You don't know who you're living with." The words hung between us, heavier than the air. She patted my arm quickly, as though regretting she'd said anything, and walked away. That night I asked Claire about it. "Any packages arrived lately?" I tried to sound casual. She looked at me from across the dinner table, her fork frozen mid-air. Then she smiled, quick and easy. "Just office supplies, why?" I shrugged, forcing a laugh. "Mrs. Holloway mentioned something." Her smile faded almost imperceptibly. "She likes to gossip. Don't listen to her." But the way she returned to her food, slow, deliberate, avoiding my eyes, told me more than her words ever could. I stopped trusting what Claire said and started watching what she did. The next morning, I pretended to leave for work but parked my car around the corner. From there I had a clear view of the house. Hours passed, the silence broken only by the occasional car rolling by. Then a delivery truck stopped in front of my driveway. I held my breath as 2 men carried a large box, almost coffin-sized, up to the porch. Claire appeared at the door, hair pulled back neatly, signing a slip of paper. She smiled politely at the men, then ushered the box inside with surprising urgency. When the truck pulled away, I sat frozen in my car. My heart pounded with a mix of fear and disbelief. She hadn't seen me, but I had seen her. That night I tried to act normal. We watched television, her hand resting lightly on my knee. But all I could think of was that massive box sitting somewhere behind the locked door. I wanted to confront her, to demand answers. But something in me held back, because each time I thought about the truth, I remembered Mrs. Holloway's warning. You don't know who you're living with, and the terrifying part was, she was right, Mrs. Holloway's warning, the packages, the late-night footsteps, they all pressed down on me like a weight I could no longer carry. Doubt had become obsession. Each night I lay awake, staring at the hallway door. The lock seemed to taunt me, whispering promises of answers I wasn't ready to face. But one night, when Claire left for what she claimed was a late work meeting, the pressure inside me broke. I stood in the hallway, heart hammering, screwdriver in hand. My palms were slick with sweat as I wedged the metal into the lock and twisted. The door gave way with a reluctant click. I pushed it open slowly, the hinges groaning like they were protesting my intrusion. The smell hit me first, sharp, metallic, unmistakable. My stomach churned. Inside, the room was dimly lit by a single lamp on the far corner, casting long shadows across the floor. What I saw stopped me cold. The carpet was torn back in places, revealing floorboards stained dark, the color of dried blood. Chains were bolted to the wall, the steel catching the faint light. And scattered on a desk were old photographs, black and white, some faded, all disturbing. Faces of people I didn't recognize, some smiling, some blank. All gone now, I was certain. I stepped further in, every movement slow, my breathing ragged. My hand shook as I picked up one of the photographs. A teenage boy, no older than 16. His expression nervous, forced. On the back, in neat handwriting, was a date. 20 years ago, my throat tightened. This wasn't just storage. This was a shrine, a crime scene, a secret history buried in my own house. What the hell is this? I whispered, my voice breaking. And then I heard her. I told you not to open that door. I spun around, the photograph slipping from my hand. Claire stood in the doorway, calm, composed, her silhouette framed by the hallway light. She wasn't surprised. She wasn't even angry. She looked resigned. Claire, I stammered, my chest heaving. What is this? What did you do? She stepped into the room slowly, her eyes scanning the walls, the chains, the photographs, as though she were revisiting an old memory. Then she looked at me. You weren't supposed to see this, she said softly. Her tone wasn't defensive. It was almost tender, as if she pitied me. I backed away, my heel hitting the wall. This is blood. These are people. What have you done? Her lips curved into the faintest smile, one that sent a shiver crawling up my spine. You wouldn't understand. Not yet. I wanted to scream, to demand answers, to run. But the calmness in her voice rooted me to the floor. She wasn't panicked. She wasn't scrambling to explain. She was in control. And in that moment I realized something more terrifying than the bloodstains or the chains. Claire had been waiting for this. Her eyes locked on mine, steady and unblinking. The silence between us stretched until it felt like the walls themselves were leaning in, listening. Finally, she spoke. You see blood, Claire said, her voice flat, but you don't see the story behind it. I swallowed hard. My throat was dry. Then explain it. Because right now, it looks like hell. She walked deeper into the room, fingers brushing across the desk, lingering over one of the photographs. She picked it up, studied it, then set it back down with the care of someone returning a sacred relic. I was a child when it began, she said quietly. Locked in basements. Beaten until I couldn't stand, used, forgotten. No one helped me. No one cared. Her tone was almost clinical, as though she were reciting someone else's story. I swore it would never happen to me again. I wanted to believe her. Part of me did believe her. But the photographs, the chains, none of it fit cleanly with the narrative she was weaving. And this? I gestured toward the stains on the floor. The people in those pictures? What did they have to do with your childhood? She tilted her head as if the question were too simple to require an answer. They were like him. Like the ones who hurt me. Predators, abusers, monsters hiding in plain sight. I didn't kill innocents. Stopped monsters. The way she said stop chilled me. Final. Absolute. You expect me to believe that? My voice cracked. That all these people were guilty? That every chain, every drop of blood was necessary? Her expression didn't change. If anything, it softened. I don't expect you to believe me. I only expect you to understand that morality isn't black and white. The police wouldn't protect me. The system failed me. I became my own justice, the words twisted in my chest. I wanted to scream that she was lying, that she was delusional. But another part of me, the part that remembered her late-night terrors, her silence when I asked about her past, hesitated. What if she was telling the truth? Still, the details gnawed at me. The dates on the photographs spanned decades, far longer than her own childhood abuse. Her voice was calm, too calm, like someone rehearsing a story. Claire, I said slowly, You're leaving things out. None of this adds up. For the first time, her smile faltered. Just for a second. Then it returned, sharper this time. Maybe it's not meant to add up. Maybe it's meant to test you, test me. She stepped closer, her hand resting lightly on my arm. You have a choice now. You can protect me or you can expose me. Either way, you'll carry the weight of what you know. Her words sank into me like venom. Protect her or damn her. And in either case, damn myself. Behind us, the hallway light flickered. Somewhere in the silence of the house, a floorboard creaked. The neighbors were listening. The knock at the door came early the next morning. Firm. Deliberate. The kind that didn't belong to a neighbor asking for sugar. My stomach tightened before I even opened it. Standing on the porch was a tall man in a gray suit, badge clipped to his belt. His eyes were sharp, scanning not just me but the hallway behind me, as though measuring the secrets of our home without stepping inside. "Mr. Bennett?" he asked, voice calm but steady. I nodded. "Yes?" He flashed his badge properly this time. "Detective Harris. I'm following up on a series of missing persons reports in the area. Do you mind if I ask you a few questions?" My throat tightened. Behind me, I felt Claire's presence before I saw her. She stepped into view, her hand resting lightly on my shoulder, smile warm enough to melt glaciers. "Of course, Detective. Come in, I wanted to stop her, to slam the door to buy us more time, but my body didn't move." Harris entered, eyes flicking across the living room, the family photos, the tidy shelves, the faint scent of Claire's perfume in the air. His gaze landed on me again, holding a second longer than comfort allowed. "Neighbors mentioned some unusual activity here," he said casually. "Deliveries late at night? Unfamiliar cars parked nearby. Did either of you notice anything?" My chest felt heavy. I opened my mouth, but Claire beat me to it. "Deliveries?" She laughed lightly. "Oh yes. I've been ordering supplies for my art projects. I do mixed media, sculpture, fabric, you name it. Things tend to arrive at odd hours." Her tone was perfect. Just enough warmth, just enough self-deprecating charm. If I hadn't seen what was in that locked room, I might have believed her. Harris nodded, scribbling in his notebook, though his eyes never left her face. Then, abruptly, they shifted back to me. "And you, Mr. Bennett? Notice anything unusual?" The silence stretched. My mouth went dry. Images flashed, the photographs, the chains, the blood. Every instinct screamed to say something, anything. But Claire's hand pressed gently against my shoulder, and the weight of it anchored me. "No," I heard myself say. "Nothing unusual. It was the lie that sealed me." The detective studied me carefully, his pen hovering just above the page. I could feel him peeling me apart with his gaze, searching for the fracture lines in my words. Finally, he closed the notebook. "If either of you remember anything, no matter how small, call me." He handed me his card, his fingers brushing mine briefly. His eyes held mine just long enough to send a chill down my spine. When the door shut behind him, the silence roared. Claire turned to me, her smile fading into something darker. "See?" she whispered. "You chose." And in that moment, I understood the truth. My silence had made me her accomplice. After Detective Harris left, the air inside the house thickened. Claire moved closer, her hand sliding down my arm as if nothing had happened. Her touch was soft, yet I felt the iron hidden beneath it. "You did well," she whispered. "You protected us. Us." The word rattled in my head like a chain. Was there even an us anymore, or just her, pulling the strings while I dangled helplessly? That night, she poured wine, dimmed the lights, and sat across from me at the kitchen table. Her smile was gentle, but her eyes glittered like glass shards. "Marriage," she said softly, "isn't about honesty. It's about loyalty. You showed me yours today." I wanted to argue, to say marriage should be trust, not secrets. But the words wouldn't form. Her beauty disarmed me, her calmness seduced me. Every protest in my chest tangled into silence. Later, in the bedroom, she kissed me with a hunger that felt almost violent. My body responded, betraying the storm in my head. I hated myself for it, hated how desire fused with fear until I couldn't tell one from the other. She made love to me like she was claiming territory, whispering in my ear, "You're mine. No one will believe you if you turn on me. They'll think you're weak, paranoid, unstable." Each word carved deeper into me. She wasn't just my wife anymore. She was my captor, my judge, my punishment. And the worst part? A part of me craved her dominance. The tighter she held me, the less I had to face the horror of the truth alone. Days blurred into nights. She cooked my favorite meals, laughed at my jokes, even pressed her head against my chest like she used to when we first fell in love. But every gesture came wrapped in barbed wire. When I hesitated to touch her, she would tilt her head, voice sharp as a blade. "Are you forgetting what we've built together? Or are you imagining what Detective Harris might say when he hears you've been sneaking around?" And when I caved, when I played the part of the dutiful husband, her warmth would return, almost tender. She rewarded my obedience with passion, with comfort, with the illusion of safety. Marriage had become her weapon, intimacy her chain. At night I lay awake, listening to her breathe beside me. Sometimes I reached out and brushed her hair from her face, wondering who she truly was. The woman I married, or the stranger who had lured me into complicity? I no longer knew where love ended and control began. I was addicted to her darkness, unable to pull free, terrified of what freedom might reveal. One evening, as she locked the mysterious room again, she caught me staring. She leaned close, lips grazing my ear. "You'll stay," she whispered, "because you love me, and because you're too afraid not to." I believed her, and that terrified me more than anything. It happened on a Thursday, when the autumn air smelled of rain and decay. Claire left her laptop open on the dining table, something she rarely did. Normally, her devices were locked down. Screens snapped shut the second I entered the room. I didn't mean to pry, at least. That's what I told myself. But my eyes snagged on an email thread glowing on the screen. The subject line, "Next weekend, confirmed." I scrolled. My blood ran cold. Names, addresses, a photo attachment. And then I saw it, David Holloway, Mrs. Holloway's son. The neighbor's boy who'd just started community college, the one who mowed lawns on weekends, who waved every time he passed our driveway. Claire had chosen him. The walls of the house seemed to tilt, pressing in. I slammed the laptop shut, my hands trembling, bile rising in my throat. She wasn't done. She would never be done. That night I couldn't hide the storm brewing inside me. Claire noticed immediately, of course. She always did. "What's wrong?" she asked, her tone deceptively soft as she brushed her hand along my cheek. I swallowed hard, forcing my voice steady. "When does it stop, Claire? When do we stop?" Her eyes darkened, the warmth draining like light from a dying bulb. "Stop?" she echoed, almost amused. "You think this is something you can turn off? This is survival. This is who I am. And now it's who we are." "David's just a kid," I whispered, the name slipping out before I could contain it. Her smile faltered. Then slowly she leaned back in her chair, folding her arms. "So you looked. You finally peeked behind the curtain." Silence swelled between us, thick and suffocating. "You can't," I said, voice breaking. "You can't drag me further into this." "He's innocent." Claire tilted her head, eyes glinting. "Innocent? No one's innocent. Everyone hides sins, weakness, secrets. You of all people should know that by now." Her words struck deep, and I hated that a part of me believed her. But David, he wasn't part of this twisted world we lived in. He was untouched, unscarred. If she reached him, it would be my fault too. That night, lying beside her in the dark, I stared at the ceiling, my pulse hammering. Every breath she took sounded like a countdown. My mind spun with impossible choices. Expose her and everything I knew. My marriage, my home, even my sanity, would shatter. Protect her, and I would be complicit in destroying another innocent life. I realized then that Claire hadn't trapped me. I had trapped myself, link by link, with every silence, every lie I'd told in her name. But David's face kept flashing in my head. His easy smile, his youth, and I knew, with a clarity that burned through the fog, that this was the breaking point. I couldn't let her win this time, even if it cost me everything. I waited until Claire was gone. The house seemed to exhale with relief in her absence, the silence no longer suffocating but fragile, like glass that might shatter at the faintest sound. My hands shook as I pulled the flash drive from her laptop, the one I had hidden days ago after copying her files, emails, photos, names, more than enough to bury her. I drove to the station with the weight of every vow I'd ever spoken pressing against my chest, for better or worse, in sickness and in health, until death do us part. Words that once meant love now sounded like chains. Detective Harris met me in a dimly lit office, his sharp eyes cutting straight through me. I slid the drive across the desk without speaking. His expression barely shifted, but I saw the recognition, the grim satisfaction. "You're doing the right thing," he said quietly. But was I? Betrayal doesn't come clean. It leaves residue, and I felt it crawling on my skin even as I signed my name to the statement. When I returned home, night had fallen. Claire was waiting in the living room, her silhouette outlined by the glow of the fireplace. The moment I saw her eyes, I knew. She already knew. "You went to him," she said softly. No rage, no theatrics, just certainty. I opened my mouth, but words failed. She rose slowly, every step deliberate, graceful. "After everything we shared, after what you promised me." Her voice cracked, and for the first time I glimpsed something raw beneath her armor. Pain. "You left me no choice," I whispered. "I couldn't let you take him. Couldn't let you take anyone else." Her lips trembled, then curled into a bitter smile. Then we burned together. Before I could move, she lit the match. I hadn't noticed the trail of gasoline, the faint chemical stench woven into the air. Flames leapt across the carpet in a violent rush, consuming curtains, clawing at walls. "Claire!" I shouted, lunging for her hand, but she pulled away. Her eyes blazed brighter than the fire. "You vowed," she hissed, "until death do us part." The smoke thickened, choking me, clawing down my throat. Heat seared my skin as the living room dissolved into a roaring inferno. I stumbled toward the door, coughing, vision blurring. Behind me, Claire stood still, framed in firelight like some vengeful specter. Her face serene as the flames licked higher. I don't remember how I made it outside, whether I leapt through a window or crawled out on hands and knees. All I know is the cold night air slammed into me like salvation. Sirens wailed in the distance, neighbors shouting, shadows flickering, and as I collapsed on the grass, gasping, I turned back toward the house. Flames swallowed the roof, sparks spiraling into the night. Claire was nowhere in sight. For a fleeting, agonizing second, I wondered if she had truly chosen death, or if this was just another part of her game. They said the fire consumed everything. The house collapsed into itself before the firefighters could break through the flames. Inside they found no body, at least not one they could identify. Some believed Claire burned that night. Others whispered she slipped into the smoke, vanishing into the dark like the ghost she had always been. I don't know which version I believe. Maybe both. What I do know is that my life ended inside those flames, even though I crawled out alive. Since then, I've lived in fragments. Shards of memory, each one cutting deeper than the last. Detective Harris closed the case with the evidence I gave him. Missing persons were linked back to Claire, at least circumstantially. Families finally had answers, though they were answers drenched in grief. Some thanked me. Others looked at me with thinly veiled disgust, as if my silence had made me as guilty as she was. And maybe they were right. At night, I replay every choice. The moments I could have spoken, the moments I didn't. How many lives could have been saved if I'd had the courage sooner? How many chains did I allow her to forge with my cowardice? People still ask me about love, about marriage, about what it means to share your life with someone. I tell them the truth, though it unsettles them. Love can be the sharpest weapon. Marriage can be the cruelest prison. And trust. Trust is the illusion that blinds us until the knife is already at our throat. I see Claire in every shadow, sometimes in crowds, sometimes in dreams. Her voice lingers in my head, whispering promises, threats, vows twisted into curses. Even when I'm alone, I'm never free of her. She made sure of that. Do I believe she loved me? Yes, in her own way. But her love was possession, not partnership. A love that devours, that controls, that leaves no space for truth. And I let it happen. I let myself become addicted to her darkness, intoxicated by her power. The truth is, I didn't just fail as a husband. I failed as a human being. When I look in the mirror now, I don't see a survivor. I see a man hollowed out by fear, by guilt, by choices that can never be undone. So when people ask me if humanity is good, if love is worth the risk, I can only shake my head. Because once you've lived inside the fire, once you've seen the face of the person you trusted most, twisted by secrets and blood, You can never go back. Claire is gone. Or maybe she isn't. But the scars she left, those are eternal. And me? I no longer trust love. I no longer trust vows. I no longer trust humanity.